In the midst of war, suffering, and despair, the story of one miraculous event stands out as a beacon of hope. The year is 1864, and thousands of Union soldiers are imprisoned at Andersonville Prison in Georgia. Conditions are dire, but one day during a violent storm, something extraordinary happened. Andersonville Prison, also known as the Andersonville National Historic Site, was one of the most notorious Confederate prison camps during the American Civil War. Intended to hold 10,000 men, it housed over 30,000 Union soldiers at its peak in overcrowded and deplorable conditions. With the prison's only water source being a contaminated creek, disease spread quickly, and the men became increasingly desperate. Dehydration, dysentery, and starvation were everyday realities. The soldiers faced death every day, but they had no idea that a miracle was about to unfold. Then on August 16, 1864, a fierce summer storm suddenly rolled over the prison camp. The prisoners, already suffering under the scorching sun and diseases, thought they had seen it all. But as the storm raged on, something incredible happened, something that defied all explanation. The ground at Andersonville Prison, dry and cracked from the relentless heat, suddenly gave way. And in the midst of the storm, fresh, clean water began to flow from the earth itself. It wasn't just rainwater. This was a pure, life-giving spring, appearing as if from nowhere. For the prisoners, this was nothing short of a miracle. Starving and parched, they rushed to the spring, drinking deeply from the life-giving waters. It was as if God had reached down and answered their desperate prayers, providing for them in their darkest hour. Many of the survivors who witnessed this event believed that Providence Spring was a divine act, a sign that God had not abandoned them. One former prisoner later recalled, "It was as if the hand of God had reached down and delivered us from certain death." The fresh water from Providence Spring not only quenched their thirst, but also gave the prisoners the strength they needed to survive. The spring became a source of life for the men, helping them heal from the physical toll of starvation and disease. Today, the spring continues to flow at the Andersonville National Historic Site, a living testament to the miracle that occurred more than 150 years ago. It stands as a powerful reminder that even in the most hopeless situations, help can come from the most unexpected places. For the men of Andersonville, the appearance of Providence Spring was not just a physical miracle, it was a spiritual one. It reminded them that no matter how bleak the circumstances, divine providence is always at work. It was a message that God was with them. The water flowed freely, just as God's grace often flows into our lives when we least expect it. The prisoners of Andersonville, in their suffering, found a source of hope and renewal, something that would carry them through to the end of the war. The story of Providence Spring is more than just a historical event. It is a story of faith, hope, and divine intervention. It shows us that, no matter how impossible the circumstances, help can come when we need it most. The miracle at Andersonville reminds us all to keep faith, even in the darkest times, because sometimes the miracle we need is just around the corner. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey back in time. If this story has inspired you or given you hope, please don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. We'd love to hear how stories like this resonate with you and how faith or divine intervention has impacted your life. If you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another inspiring story. And remember, in times of trial, never lose hope. There's always a way, even when we can't see it.
The sky was dark, the ground was dry. Prisoners were thirsty, they couldn't deny. The heat was fierce and the hunger deep. In the silence of despair, their souls would weep. But God knew their pain, He saw their need. When there seemed to be no way, He planted a seed. From the earth, from the storm, a miracle began. A spring of water in the desert land. In the midst of the storm, He made a way. When all seemed lost, he led them through the day. From the cracks in the earth, a river of grace. In the darkest hour, he showed his face. In the midst of the storm, he made a way. Where there was no hope, he carried them through the pain. In the midst of impossibility, he'll always find a way. God's hand reaches down and he makes a way. The prisoners were broken, their spirits worn. They had no strength, they were ragged and torn. But when the storm raged, they saw the light, pure spring of water flowing from the night. It wasn't by chance, it wasn't by luck. It was God's hand when they were out of luck. In their desperation, he brought them peace. From the suffering, he brought release. In the midst of the storm, he made a way. When all seemed lost, he led them through the day. From the cracks in the earth, a river of grace. In the darkest hour, he showed his face. In the midst of the storm, he made a way. Water from the ground, fresh and pure, a gift from the heavens, a life so sure. In the darkest hour, when hope was gone, God's hand reached down and the miracle shone. Water from the ground, a new breath to take, a sign of grace for the soul's sake. In the heat of summer, when the ground was dry, thirst had torn them apart, no matter how hard they tried. The creek was poisoned, the air was thin, but then the rain came and the healing began within. They rushed to the spring, they knelt on the earth, drinking deep from the waters of rebirth. Their faces brightened, the pain turned to light. In the midst of the storm, they saw God's light. Water from the ground, fresh and pure, a gift from the heavens, a life so sure. In the darkest hour, when hope was gone, God's hand reached down and the miracle shone. Water from the ground, a new breath to take, a sign of grace for the soul's sake. In the silence, in the storm, we may feel alone, but he's there, just waiting to bring us home when the road is hard.